All right. Welcome to the Hawk's Nest of Peak Performers, the podcast where I gather performers in various fields where we can have conversations where people that listen to them and then the people who are talking about it are empowered to pursue their passions. So I am Ryan the RyBred Hawks, and today we have Rio Henry. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you doing?
I am doing well, no real complaints on my end. Very busy, but always better to have too much to do than not enough to do, I always say, right?
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So I'd like to say tell me about yourself. More so tell the viewers or listeners about you.
All right. I am aspiring mental conditioning coach. Studying sports psychology right now. Last couple of classes that I've been doing, I found sports psych as an elective class during my undergrad
Hmm.
because I had no idea what I was in school for. I was just a psychology major, and I was like, yeah, because I worked in the bank, I worked in retail, I worked in food and beverage. I'm like, I don't like any of this stuff. I'm not good at any of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just not a natural fit. So once I found sports psych, it was like, wow, everything just opened up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a good journey, and I wouldn't change it for anything. Like I finally found my niche, and it kind of just like opened up my mind in every other way. So
Nice. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those jobs are just kind of those initial old ones are like, I mean, they all fall into like that retail category. I mean, it
yeah,
takes a special person to actually enjoy retail. I haven't met anybody who does. Have you?
never. But I mean, if it's like you want to get into like starting a clothing line, I could understand, just like wanting to be a manager. But yeah, it just doesn't line up with my personality. Like I was working at the bank and you have to be very strict, see stuff black and white because you're dealing with money, and
Right.
I'm like so laid back. I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. And I would constantly get in trouble working in banking.
Oh man. Yeah. Wow. But at the same time, even though you may not have liked all of that work, you said that you wouldn't change the journey though. Why is that?
Absolutely. Like I learned so much. And you don't realize the value of like learning about yourself and putting yourself in these certain situations until like you kind of like come out of it, and then you're like, wow, like I absolutely like loathe working at the bank, but
Yeah.
I learned about interest rates, I learned about mortgages, I learned about credit cards, how to build credit, I learned all of that stuff, and I would have never known it, and so you just take things in stride, and we talk about and learn about the growth mindset, and you
Hmm.
realize like, okay, this is exactly what it's talking about, is just learning in whatever situation you're in.
Right. Yeah, I love it. It's such a great way to just apply things over to the type of work we do. Yeah, for our listeners that know, we're both in our this well, it used to be JFKU, now is National Sports Psych Program. So it's been a fun journey together. We're towards the end now, aren't we?
Thank goodness, thank the universe, thank everything.
Yeah. It's one of those funny things, it's like with this, like, yeah, we love the field and I love the classes, like kind of looking back at them like this, but man, it's a grind. I'm glad to be done too. I'm
It's a
almost there.
grind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then at the same time, so kind of looking back to this and like getting stuff out of these jobs that we don't like, I mean, it's kind of like doing our time. And if we can take something from each of them that makes us who we are. It was one of those things from Sports Psych B that we were in last time, and one of the guys, man, I forget his name now, but like he emphasized how everything he did before then like shaped who he was as a person and like informed his practice and what he does now. Like even me, one of my first job, my foray into retail was at the Home Depot, and I still think that was probably one of the better retail places you could get because I got to like mess around on the forklift. I was in the lumber department. And even though
Mhm.
like towards the end, man, I hated it there, but I got a lot out of it. I learned
Mhm.
I learned a lot. I was like a young dude at the time. I was like what 19 when I got the job. So I learned a lot about like how to use tools and stuff. And I learned how to build a doghouse. So a lot of
Yeah.
stuff I gained from it, man, and I took it with me.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like we're sponges when we're just like constantly soaking things up. We just don't even realize it.
Right.
Like what's crazy is like your Zoom background is Final Fantasy. Like,
Yeah.
and my oldest brother loved Final Fantasy growing up, so I started playing it, and I learned how to read like playing Final Fantasy 7, which is crazy. Like I don't know what
Yes.
potions is, and I learned about Diablos, things like that, and just like what the heck, because it's and you don't even realize it. But
Yup. So many learning opportunities. Yeah, I remember that I used to read the when I would play games that my friends, he couldn't read well. We're already in like third grade and he couldn't. And I would read him the video game. What did it say, man? Read it to me. And at some point I remember telling him, like, you know what, man, you're gonna have to start reading this on your own because you gotta learn. We're getting older now.
yeah, yeah, just all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
How do you think you're going to apply some of that stuff in the work that you do once you start doing your mental training and such?
I apply everything.
Yeah.
My style, and I know our styles are gonna change, but this journey has like throughout grad school, I've never thought on this level before.
Yeah.
And um I was heavy into like spirituality. So I
Hmm.
was a big churchgoer, missionary and stuff. And everything I learned in that role as being like a college like counselor at the church that the youth group that I was in, I take all that into counseling.
Right.
Um, but like even just being a spiritual person, like when I was younger and stuff, like you don't really touch on the universe too much,
Right.
but yeah, because it's just like whatever's written, that's what you go by, and
Hmm.
you don't really dig too much into it because there's not really like a mix of religion and learning about the universe and galaxies and stuff like that. But at after like once I got into grad school, now I'm just like into astrophysics and stuff. So I take what I learn about the universe. I take what I learn about how humans came to be, and you just have that perspective, and
Wow.
I use that with my athletes. Like we talk about what's the pretty much like existential therapy.
Okay.
So like like what do they want out of life? The meaning that they put on their life and everything, and you
Hmm.
just have that perspective. So I tend to look at things in the long term.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean I really love that. I'm passionate about when I'm doing work like for us, it's like sports psychology and we're usually working with athletes, but I mean, I think it's really important to talk about purpose and link that to what they're doing because I mean, part of their sport life and identity has to do with their purpose. So where does that fit in? And then from there existentially we could get in if they're willing to go there, like how does that fit into the universe in a way, right?
Absolutely. I completely agree because
Mhm.
there's so many different factors. And we learn like in school about personal construct theory and how we all live in the same world, but people's lives are different. People's worlds are different because they just have different factors. They pay attention to different things. They see,
Mhm.
life in a different way. So I feel like at the bare minimum of everything, what is your purpose in life? My I believe it's to enjoy it, because you
Mhm.
can say like it's to do one thing or it's to do another thing, but at the bare minimum, what else are we here for? To enjoy our lives. Like you can say
Right.
like, oh, you're supposed to procreate or you're supposed to do something else, but if you're not enjoying it, then you know what are we doing? So
Exactly. What's the point? I mean, we were given these senses for a reason and we're given
mhm,
sentience. If we had a purpose, we could have just been made as robots or something, for something as strict as like procreation. There's
mhm.
procreation is a, to continue things on in like a different scale. But yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I do feel like so many people in life kind of do a lot that and get into this thing where they don't enjoy what they're doing. They're
Mm-hmm.
not happy, right?
100%.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, and it's just like finding that happiness. Like, so if you have children and you're like, I gotta, work hard so my children can succeed, that's the joy,
right.
or whatever it might be. Like, find your joy and
Hmm.
stick to that, or else it's like, then you're just existing in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and it's different for everyone. So, and that's when you do start to look at things on more of like a macro level, and think like, okay, everyone has a purpose as big as smaller in this moment. And I think my purpose is probably something like this, gathering people together. And maybe the sport field is appealing to me because of high performers. Like, I just like to
Mhm.
help people perform their best, because when they're performing, they're happy. And that comes back to some self-determination theory, like, feeling that they have autonomy over their lives. And
Mhm.
sometimes, but there's work to be done with that, right? Like, I can say that I love playing football in life and that's my passion, but if I don't really put my all into it, then I might not ever be able to do that as my purpose, and then I might get stuck working retail my whole life, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, circumstances are, a lot of things are out of our control. So,
Hmm.
but you find that purpose, and where you find the joy. And I believe that if we focus on like self-development and dating ourselves and self-awareness and, learning more about yourself, is just, then you get into like, okay, um, I might not enjoy this, like what I'm doing, but you can find the joy in the process, I guess.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
like you said, with the hard work, like think about Kobe Bryant all the time. Like you gotta love the grind, even though it
Hmm.
might not be the funnest thing, you gotta
Yeah.
find the value in it.
Yeah, and I think that love of the grind comes from this long-term goal or result, and in that, like, he probably hated shooting baskets for 3 hours straight, that repetitive thing. But as he's shooting, I mean, shoot, he might be seeing that end result already of that championship that he wants to get to. And I think a lot of people get caught and don't even move beyond that. They see this thing that's in front of them, that this work they have to put in, that
Yeah.
might not lead to a result. And with Kobe, he knew that too. I mean, yeah, he could put in all this work and play a whole season and shoot, maybe even get to the finals and
Mhm.
not reach that goal. But you got to be willing to put in that work to fail. But I mean, man,
Yeah.
how do we get people to get started on it?
Honestly, I believe that, like, I'm really glad you said that before, because oftentimes we're not even focused on, all we're thinking about is the future.
Hmm.
We're not focused on, we don't think about the present. That's like
Yeah.
a well-known, that's well-known. You can tell anybody, yeah, we don't really spend any time on the present, and they'll probably agree with you. Because either our mind's in the future, like I can't wait for this to come, or our mind's in the past, and it's just like time goes by and you look back and you're like, dang, like I never spent that, like just be in the moment and just be
Yeah.
present. And I believe that that's where, the mindfulness comes in, the
Right.
ability to focus and stuff, and just appreciate where you're at.
Man.
So it's all connected.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And I think that was something I got stuck in personally for a long time. And sometimes when you're in this grind, and you got to do
Mhm.
some time, man. Like in my undergraduate, when I had to put in the time. I was working 3 jobs. I loved one of them. I was a tutor. I loved that. I hated Home Depot at some point. I had this other job that was like at a junkyard, and like, you know, it
Wow.
and and I was just looking to the future. Oh, once I graduate, this is going to happen. But at some point, I couldn't enjoy the moment. I was like on autopilot, and then at that point, I kind of ran out of steam. It
Yeah.
and I think that can happen if we don't take the time to enjoy these little moments. And there were plenty looking back, and I don't, not that I harp on it, but there's plenty of chances to enjoy those little moments, and sometimes I
Yeah.
would. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's so true, man.
Yeah. It's like This Is Us, where they like look back on their lives and the best moments are was just like them hanging out, in the living room playing board games. Like
Yeah.
that's and we have that every single day, but you just don't ever think like, damn, like this is the joy in life, because we're so constantly consumed with
Hmm.
where we're going and our goals and what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's
like a
no
never
easy
ending,
feat.
yeah, it's a never ending balance, because then you see a lot of other people who are just kind of living in the moment like nonstop. I had some friends
Hmm.
like that, especially when I remember being in my earlier 20s, and my friends were the opposite of me. I was the goal long term guy and not really doing
Yeah,
much. And I had these friends who are like, I just want to turn up, I just want to live it up in the moment now. But then they cycled into that for like 10 years. Like now they're 30 and they're still in the same place they were in their 20s, because they're not setting any type of goals for themselves.
absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. The balance aspect of it. Oh my goodness. Like that's like I don't know. I feel like that should be like a Newton law, balance, whereas
Yeah.
you can't be balance everything. Everything should
Yeah.
have balance. Don't get too consumed with anything, whether it be the future, the past, or the present.
Yeah.
Like, think for the future, think for the present, because I know exactly what you mean with like people that just are like, I don't care about tomorrow. I only care about
Yeah.
right now. And yeah,
Yeah.
gotta.
It's wild, man. And it's like an ongoing process in life. I mean, I think if we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and like meeting it, when I've had perfect balance, I think I've been at that like self-actualization stage. But I mean, how
Yeah.
fleeting is that? I mean, it lasts for like an hour a day if I'm lucky, before I'm like
Yeah.
tipping into this other scale. And I mean, I tend to tip to the like workaholism scale, but I'm getting a lot better at it. I think I'm doing a lot more mindfulness on that, and trying to trust your body, trust yourself, and trust your place in the universe in a way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's gold, because like we're like our brains is hardwired, to just focus on, keeping us alive to survive. So that's where the anxiety and all that stuff comes in. So you're constantly like thinking about the worst case scenario, and which we're not living in caves and have to worry about a saber-tooth tiger like eating us anymore. So
Yeah.
uh we have to like override that. But it just the same anxious energy shows up. It just manifested a different way. So now we're thinking about exams or something. But
Yeah.
um yeah, it takes some hard work, but get
Yeah.
to it.
How would you help someone deal with that anxiety that comes with just life, right? I mean, just life in general, like just functioning, man.
Yeah. I used to like, because I have limited experience with this, but I used to want to like stop the anxious thoughts.
Yeah.
Let's like do thought stoppage. But then you realize anxiety is just energy.
Hmm.
So let's take that energy and let's channel it into a more productive way than getting so like, caught up in your mind and everything. But there's multiple like methods that I use. Honestly, I think that understanding where the anxious thoughts comes from, um, how it affects you, like just learning about yourself, that's one part of it.
Hmm.
And another part for dealing with the anxiety is like, so you have the self-awareness aspect. And then where's the other part? I had it in my mind. But
Oh.
yeah, it's like not about like just like reframing it and stuff. Oh, the mindfulness, absolutely. Using
Hmm.
mindfulness, because when you do meditations, you just
Right.
sit still
Hmm.
and you do it in a productive way. So you get the mental reps of calming your mind down whether
Right.
it be through mind to muscle or muscle to mind, through breathing
Right.
techniques and stuff. So if you work with an athlete or anybody, and every time you meet and you're like, okay, let's do some mindfulness, and they're like really into it, and you lead it,
Right.
and you get those reps of just calming your mind down. Next thing you know, when you're in a situation and you're feeling anxious and you're like, okay, I need to calm down a little bit, you've done that, the practices in the past, so it's
Right.
easier to bring it down rather than just like out of go cold turkey and just like go from 100 to 0. it's
Right.
it's much easier once you get those
Mhm.
reps in.
Yeah, it's like practice on the field, mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
If you practice it, like for me, it's every day when I wake up. It's a controlled environment, like practice, and then you're out in the field the rest of the day, like in a game, and
Yeah.
for me, it's at work. I get a client who is angry about something and starts yelling at me. Well, I've already practiced mindfulness then, so now I'm
Mhm.
ready to use it on the field. And yeah, it takes reps. That I think a lot of people get caught up in, not being good at it at first. No, nobody's good at it at first. All these gurus you see didn't just wake up one day and can meditate for an hour and a half or something in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You got to start from somewhere. And I
Mhm.
understand like some people it's just not for them.
Yeah,
I completely
yeah.
understand. I understand
Mhm.
that. But
Yeah,
it like you said, it takes time, and
yeah.
it has those benefits.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, and I like what you said earlier too about just kind of reframing the way of anxiety. Like before I got into this sports psych program, I was like, I've never had anxiety. I've never dealt with it, right? But then when I'm reading the symptoms of anxiety, increased heart rate,
Yeah.
feeling shaky and sweaty, to me, I'm like, oh, well, that's just what happens before I perform. Like that means I'm ready to go. So it's a way for
Mm-hmm.
me, like you don't need to like turn it off. I mean, at some point, there's limits, and everyone does have their optimal level of anxiety or of energy levels. But if you just kind of think of it like that, like this isn't a bad thing. This is my body getting ready to perform. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Excitement and anxiety have the same thing. Fear, all of these things
Mm-hmm.
have the same physiological reactions. It's just how are we interpreting that in our head?
Yeah. And that's so true. Like, because I grew up in a Black household. That word anxiety was never used. There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with you.
yeah,
If you feeling anxious or worried, like you need to go pray or something, But
yeah.
um, yeah, so I completely agree, and I was like, I don't have anxiety, like, and then you
Yeah.
like it was the same type of mindset, like, and
Mhm.
then it's just like, wow, I really do need to, get this, just really just understand what's going on. Cause I used to get sweaty armpits and I'm like, holy crap. But I didn't
Yeah,
think that was a form of anxiety. I'm just like,
yeah.
but it's there.
Mhm.
And I got that where the whole idea of not fighting with anxiety, but using it. I got
Right.
that
Mhm.
from Kobe Bryant. Like, and I could talk about Kobe, for days,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he would use anger in
Mhm.
like, and the stuff in his past, he would use that in games
Yeah.
to will his way. He'll will his way, and that's why he was like a jerk to his teammates, because he says, "I can't be so nice to them and stuff." And they lost to I think it was the Celtics in the
Yeah.
finals. And then he said the year after that, like, I gotta help them. I have to bring them along and help them use anger
Yeah.
to for their benefit. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people when they like think about, oh man, like Kobe, like Michael Jordan, I saw The Last Dance finally recently. It's like, oh man, he's such a jerk to his teammates, but he ain't asking him to do anything that he wouldn't do himself. He's a jerk to
yeah.
himself too, if you want to
Hmm.
put it that way. Like that's what it takes, performance sometimes. I mean, there are limits. I think now some of these coaches that are coming out and teams were like, okay, this is too far. But like
Yeah.
that's what it is, man. I mean, they're doing the same things to themselves.
Yeah.
And directing
And
energy.
it if that aligns with their values, that works for them,
Mhm.
absolutely. Like, you don't, you wouldn't teach everybody to be the nice, pleasant, super encouraging teammate, because
Yeah.
if that's not their personality, it's not going to work. So the same thing goes for the Kobe's and the Michael Jordan, where they say lead your own way,
Right.
and it works. That aligns with their values, and
Yeah.
that's where they can say, I did it my way. And Kobe would say, like, if I'm gonna lose, I want to lose my way, not
Right.
I'm playing another part, and then I lose, and then it's like I wasn't staying true to myself. So
Right.
if I've met with athletes that are quote unquote like assholes, so
Yeah.
and and I take away my personal feelings out of it, and I say, all right, like, you watch anime,
Mm-hmm. Not too
so
much anymore, but I still do. Yeah.
I think about My Hero Academy,
Yeah.
and Midoriya, he's like the really nice guy, and then Kachon is like, and he's like, I don't know, like the Goku and Vegeta, where it's
Right.
like one person is extremely like was it goal oriented, and the other person is like person oriented, where it's like they're driven to win, and you realize like there's no right or wrong way to do it, like
Yeah.
whatever works for them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then everyone, and it kind of comes back to that. Like everybody's got a role. Not everyone's meant to be Michael Jordan. What's yours? Let's find your role and let's
Yes.
do that the best. Like all of those teams out there, the championship teams that have had, like, sure, like Michael Jordan, how long did it take him to get his first championship? Because he needed the rest of the role players there. And
Yeah.
they do that well, whether it's being that type of teammate, being the one who, when Kobe's being too mean to you, then he comes in and plays his role and kind of pampers a little bit. I don't know who that was on the Lakers. Maybe it was Shaq, probably not. But
Yeah, that's so true. I think about Draymond Green, like this dude, he averages 2 points a game. And
hmm
it's like, but he's such a big role player. Like he
hmm
does so many things, and he deserves everything that he gets.
yeah, do your job,
Yeah,
like Bill Belichick says too. It's all there. We all have our role. Let's kind of find our purpose. I'm huge on that. So if I can help
yeah,
people, that's why it's good. Talk about your purpose with, I think for us as mental skills trainers and such, it's not just let's work on, this thing, anxiety, or getting better at the sport, but like talk about what you think your purpose is, what your values are, and now let's link that to whatever you're doing and find out
yeah,
how we can, build on that.
100%. Couldn't agree more. And that's why they say everything is connected.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of a cool little segue into my next idea I like to talk about is like authenticity. So how do you think authenticity and being your authentic self would help in a role like that, like on your team, would help you be the best teammate and help you, fill your role, right?
Mhm. I think that that's the only way to do it,
Yeah.
being authentic and being yourself, because there's no pressure in a sense in being yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas like I understand what's most beneficial for my team, but I can only use what I have.
Right.
And once you're being that authentic self, you don't have to, that's one less thing that you have to second guess.
hmm
Um and you, like, I think that's where like team builders,
Yeah.
like whether it be the coaches, the recruiters, athletic directors, general managers, like that's where they come into hand. You have to understand the people that you have and the collection of people that you're putting together. But
hmm
authenticity is everything.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that you find that are like unhappy in what they do, and I've talked to them, or maybe not feeling like they're doing their best or living their purpose. They that's what I hear from them is like, oh, I feel like I'm like putting on a mask, or that I'm
Mhm.
I'm kind of doing things because I think that's what people want me to be like, or society wants me to be like, and that's just
Yeah,
so crippling, I think,
yeah,
because how can you perform your best and what your strengths are when you're playing the part of someone you're not? right?
Yeah, that is, it's like it's difficult, it's tough, and that's life for a lot of people, and where it's just like but that's you bring it back to, why are you doing this?
Right.
And if you can say, well, I'm only doing this for to get this, to do this portion, then it's like, then we say, okay, so let's just keep that perspective. I'm only here to do this specific thing. But it's it's tough, like so many times that you have to go in life and do things that you don't want to do things that
Yeah.
you don't feel called to do at all. But
Yeah. How do you kind of balance that, keeping that authenticity? Like, I'm sure there's so many times, especially with like a team, like at some point, if you're going through high school or college and you have this period where, man, I freaking hate this coach. He's like killing the vibe. He's making me do something that I don't want to do. And they want to do something that they feel would be authentic. How do we work through that?
that is, it's tricky. I
Yeah.
I can tell you, like, I had experience working with a team during one of my internships, and the team was winning,
Yeah.
and I thought that I thought everything was good, and we went and had a team meeting with them, with just the mental conditioning team, with the athletes, and it was a rough meeting. They said that they were not happy, and it's because they weren't getting that joy from going. It felt like, what am I doing this for? Even with the winning,
Right.
where they were looking for something else, and that something else was the coach being positive towards them and congratulating them and heaping praise on them,
Right.
even when they were winning. They said, like, it just, if you're working with a horrible boss and you're doing a great job, you're still miserable. So I
Yeah.
can understand that.
Yeah, and how long does it last? I mean, sometimes at like the college level, when I think it works better than like the NFL. Like we saw with Urban Meyer, where like, man, they hate the dude, but they know, yeah, I just got to put up
Yeah.
with him for 2 years, and then I'm going to the NFL. But like then when it's like a
Yeah.
long term situation, like the Jags, they're like, we're grown men and we're gonna be here for a while, and no, we ain't putting up with this.
Yeah. Yeah. And and we're seeing that, like, on this scale.
Right.
I've never seen so many people take into account their own happiness. People
Right.
just used to work, like, and then COVID hit, and people was like, everybody like looked up and said, wait, like, am I happy? Like, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, these jobs, like, they'll work you for 30 years, and then
Hmm.
once you're gone, they'll just replace you. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what is the fulfillment I'm getting out of that? And
Yeah. I
it's
yeah. I'm like super interested in this kind of change in coaching philosophy, because I do think like a lot of the coaching, like the meanest coaches seem to be the most successful for a long time. But I really think that like if we change those styles, then we're gonna see an increase in performance. So I'm really
yes.
interested to see how that works, and to see how much this old guard fights. I mean, you still see it. I see on Twitter all the time, oh, everybody's so soft now. And I'm like, well, I don't know, man. I mean, I think this is a good way of doing things. Like happier
Yeah.
athletes are probably going to be higher performing athletes, and people in general, like you said, with work and everything too. It's like, we're moving towards that. And now technology allows us to call it out even sooner now, right? People are like all over the place, just putting employers on blast on like ridiculous behavior that they have. And we're finding that it's much more of a people's market than we were led to believe, I think.
Oh, absolutely. The internet has rocked the world.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know if people realize it, but it changes everything. Like,
Yeah.
the way that technology makes it, like, so quick, like, we can just transfer messages like across the world, like, in a couple of seconds, is it's just different. But to
Mhm.
go back to what you were saying about like the coaches
Yeah.
and the shift in the coaching styles, I think that some athletes do want the hard ass coach,
Yeah.
and they want, yeah, they, because that aligns with their values, and they're like, don't give
True.
me some soft coach and
Yeah.
tells me I did a good job even when I didn't. Like, as long as that coach values aligns with yours, like their communication, and you appreciate it and you take it in that form, and the way that they give confidence or tear you down and you like that, like whatever works for that athlete. But
Yeah.
we're seeing now like a lot of athletes just they don't like it. So
Hmm.
you have to, and I believe that as a good coach, you got to adjust. You got to be
Yeah.
able to play whatever, whatever role that helps you best when it comes to you working with your athletes. You can't be
Yeah.
rigid.
And or well, I mean, just kind of I think also is like establishing that like too. In certain instances it doesn't work, but if this is your style, then promote that and like own it. And then the other, so then you get people in where they fit in a way, right? Like the
Yeah.
people that like react well to the hard ass can go to that team, and the ones that don't go somewhere else. And there's a lot more mobility now, so people are able to make those choices, the choices with
Yes.
workplaces and choices with in professional sports. Look at how much more power the players are having, like, oh, this place ain't working, let me go here, because their talk with the players, okay, you know what, this fits my values, I'm coming here.
Yes. Absolutely. The transfer portal in college football is going crazy. NBA players, they run the league now. They'll
Oh yeah.
request a trade within a day. If I don't like it, I'm requesting a trade.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's wild.
yeah. So, and I believe that like that's why it's important for coaches. Like, you gotta stick by your word. If you tell somebody something, and then, or if you present yourself in a certain way, and then you switch up and like you show them the real you.
Yeah.
We're not in the olden days because of the internet. Now you can get in trouble really quickly. So
Yeah.
you gotta, coaches are not exempt from the rules that everybody has to follow.
Yeah,
And
definitely. Yeah.
yes,
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah. I think even in like interviews too nowadays, we can apply it, like playing the part. And I'm thinking this because I've been doing a lot of job interviews lately. And I'm like, I'm gonna be authentic here too. And I'm gonna like try to bring out who they are, so that I know if this is a good fit, and be my authentic self instead of giving them the answers I think they want to hear. I mean, to an
mm-hmm.
extent, you still do. I mean, you want to answer in a great way, but also like make sure that you're bringing stuff out. And like, I'm me, like I'm ridiculous. That's what I embrace. So in these interviews, I'm ridiculous. Like, are you gonna go with this? Is this what you're gonna like? Because this is what you're gonna get. And if they're responsive to that in the interview, then I know that probably I'm gonna be happier here. Because I've
Yeah.
noticed that too. And I'm like, I've always kind of been like that, and I stick with like workplaces for a while because I end up liking them, because they are a good fit
Mhm.
for me. Like even Home Depot towards the end, I just got tired of them, but
Yeah.
they were a good fit for me at first.
Yeah. And if you're in that position where it's like, listen, I don't want to put on this facade for you and stuff, and we're going to
Hmm.
be around each other a lot, and if we mesh well, then absolutely. But
Hmm.
now is not, people are just not going to just give the answers the
Yeah.
interviewers are seeking, just to get in there, like you said. So
Hmm.
um the balance is the it's shifting a little bit. So,
Yeah.
and you can, and now it's just like, I don't want to waste your time. Like, if we're not a good fit, I know myself,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be happy here, and then it's just going to be
Hmm.
a temporary job.
Yup. Yeah. That's good. Even my boss now, when I interviewed for program manager, she's like, um, I do want to be really professional and tighten things up around here. And in so many words, sometimes you're a little too lax. And I told her, obviously I'm gonna tighten up a little bit more as a program manager, but I'm gonna just let you know I'm still gonna be myself. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be this dry person anymore. And I think that it helps my team perform, because I'm myself and I'm authentic.
Yeah, and that's great communication too. It's
Yeah.
like I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I have to keep my authentic self in there.
Yep.
That's invaluable.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm extremely efficient worker.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm a slow mover. I guess that's
Hmm.
what I hear. I think I'm going normal pace in my mind, where people are like, "You move so slow," but I mean, I don't get like complaints from customers. It's just from my coworkers. So,
Right.
um, like I like efficiency. I don't like to waste movement and stuff.
Hmm.
And I mean, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, just relax. I'm not
Yeah.
uptight at all. I'm just enjoying the ride and every moment. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
gotta
Oh yeah. I had someone
find
on the
some.
phone with me too who realized like she was like from a partner organization. She's like, "Oh yeah, so we're working together on a case. Oh yeah, so you're like one of the case managers or something?" I was, "No, I'm the manager." And then all of a sudden, even though we're on a call and I could just feel that she like, "Oh man, I was like, "No, don't trip, I'm chill." Yep. Yeah, I gotta always remember those roots where I came from, man. That's
Yeah,
important. Yeah.
yeah. But if that makes you happy, just being relaxed and find that balance and stay true to yourself.
Yeah, and you need it. There's other people who are the uptight person, and that's their role for the
Yes.
team.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's so true. And it's like, you
Hmm.
know, we
Yeah,
we present a nice variety of personalities.
yeah,
So
because you do need it, and I take things from everybody. The first program manager here was like super strict, like super, borderline, like way too mean sometimes, and then the other's like the extreme of like overly nice and like doesn't uphold standards. So I learned from both. I'm like, okay, I could meet somewhere in between, and then throw in myself in there.
there you go. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but right in the middle, just
Oh
like
yeah,
everything.
good times. Something I like to kind of do towards the end is and so with Ryan it was funny because I'm like, well, we're all skills trainers here. So what's like one of your favorite mental skills training like activities that you do that's kind of like fun?
Oh, favorite. Um. Okay. So my experience is very limited. I've only been meeting with athletes for about a year now.
Yeah.
But one thing I did when I started, and I haven't done it in a
Mm,
long time, it was just I would ask an athlete, tell me about your describe your perfect day for me.
mm,
And I would take out a piece of paper, and as they're talking, I would just encourage them. Okay, you woke up. How'd you wake up? Um, did you have a dream or anything? Like, and I pretty much allow them to have like just give me their best version of their day, from like starting in the morning. Like, what did you eat for breakfast? Did
mm,
you get a text message on your phone? Where are you heading to now? Is it class? Is it practice? How did practice go? Like, tell me everything.
mm,
And I want to expound on that, because athletes will look at me like, what the hell are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? And
yeah.
I didn't, but like I said, I did this at the beginning. So now I got like a little bit more experience, a little bit more knowledge, and a little bit more
Mm,
like grounded in my own philosophy of practice. So I could come back to it and say, all right, and use that as a powerful tool for like, okay, this is exactly what you prefer. And let's make it so, maybe like use it in a way where it's like, if the day's not going right, if you're
yeah.
having a pretty bad day, what's one thing that you can do from the best day ever, from your favorite kind of day, that'll just like immediately bring you up? Could you play like your favorite song
Hmm.
that you listen to that day? Could you talk to your favorite person? Something like that. Um, I should probably get back into that.
I love that. Yeah, and it's cool if you make it a whole day because then at some point during like whenever it happens, then they can kind of pick from there at that certain point in time, and maybe that turns the day around. Man,
Yeah.
that's a good one. I need to get
Thank
some
you.
better stuff because I ain't got anything really good here. Like Ryan's was really good too. And I'm like, I need to find something. I'm gonna get back to you on a cool thing one day.
Yeah, I just be creative, you know. Just I do all type of crazy stuff with athletes where they're just like they don't see where I'm going, but a lot of it's like spur of the moment. But no,
Yeah,
just yeah, don't be afraid to think outside the box, do some stuff that we didn't learn in class.
yeah.
Absolutely.
All
Hmm.
right. Yeah, I love it. So now is your opportunity if you want to ask me anything. If you want, Ryan was like, "Yeah, I got some stuff for you." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I didn't expect that."
All right, I'll ask you. What's your favorite book?
Ooh, okay. Man, so I'm like I'm a very big Anne Rice fan, like Stan. So my favorite book is it would actually be one of her books. So it's Memnoch the Devil. Um
Okay.
and it's my favorite of hers because, and it actually kind of goes back to what we're talking about a little bit about the universe and such. So what happens, so Lestat is the main character of Vampire Chronicles. Have you heard of him?
I think my oldest brother has read that stuff. I'm
uh
pretty sure because I've seen that Montauk. I've seen that somewhere.
Yeah. So it's Interview with the Vampires, the first one, right? So it follows these vampires, mainly Lestat, and like it's really cool. Just off the bat, it's like they're these really dark, vampire and killing and dark. So she kind of pays them like they're these like beautiful creatures, right? So it's we already kind of have some juxtaposition here. So what happens in this book is that Lestat actually like goes to hell, and he speaks with the devil. Um,
Mhm.
who presents it like, dude, like I'm not like evil, man. Like I'm just this duality, right? Like I'm not like,
Yeah.
who says I'm bad? I'm just enjoying life, and
Yeah.
it presents it in a way where I was like, dude, like, okay, like there's like some things that are evil and some things that are just, maybe people consider evil, but they're not, right? Like darkness
Yeah.
doesn't have to be bad. Like embracing the pleasures of the flesh doesn't have to be bad if you go to a point. So it really
Yep.
like, I was in high school, probably like I think I was in ninth grade reading this, and it just like blew my mind. I'm like I was taught that all of this stuff is just terrible and
Yes.
don't even talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it. And it's like, it's actually, maybe not, like some of it can be good here, some of this is okay,
Absolutely.
within reason, and kind of like I said, we're put here on this planet and given these senses to
Yeah.
use, not to just, sit and just basically discard. I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
It goes back to like everyone having a purpose, but when I look at like some of these like monks that just like don't do anything but drink water their whole lives, I'm like, a part of me's got a question. Like, did you just waste your whole life and just never experience? We've
Yeah.
got one life, man.
You only got one. But like, I completely agree with that. Like, and
Yeah.
you learned that in ninth grade. Like, I didn't learn this until like 2 years ago. So, well, it's just like, and I realize it. Like, not everybody, but so many people have like these boxes in their brains, and it's like I have to stay in this box. Like, no,
Yeah.
let's shatter every box. Let's
Hmm.
shatter every like mental framework that we have, and think differently,
Yeah.
not necessarily, let's not place emotions on thoughts, but
Hmm.
let's think differently. Like, absolutely. Like, so many of us has grown up with like religious principles, and I understand that because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, here's a fence. And if you go outside of this fence, danger is outside of it.
Right.
Absolutely. I completely understand that,
Right.
where it's just like you want to be safe. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, all these things are written, don't do it but at the same time, it's like, okay, I got that. But of course, that's where the balance comes in. Don't go out and, don't drink
Yeah.
alcohol. I understand. Absolutely. Too much alcohol will kill you, but too
Hmm.
much water will kill you too. So it's like
Yeah.
dabble in a little bit, learn how you feel, learn about yourself and your self-interest and how you react. And then, okay, and then you put that away, and that's how you study yourself. But
Exactly.
a lot of these things where it's just like you don't even get that opportunity. And it's
Yeah.
like, do not do it, or else you'll go to eternal damnation. And it's just like,
Yeah.
Okay, so you take a risk. I mean, but
You
who
got
knows?
to take risks in life, man. You got to
Yeah.
experience and learn from it. And that's where a lot of awareness comes from. We could, building our awareness is so important, but we have to also build those experience to know what to
Mhm.
even be aware of, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Because if you don't, all right, for perfect example with alcohol.
yeah,
I mean, some of us have found our heads in a toilet,
yeah,
like throwing up, praying to the silicone god, is that what they call it? Porcelain god. And it's just like,
yeah.
okay, next time I will not get that messed up. I will not, I won't mix or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And you grow, you learn and you grow from it. But if you never have that experience in the first place, you're not gonna know yourself. So you
Yeah,
know your limits.
yeah. And at some point, if you don't start, then you might just it might just all crash in on you anyway. Eventually the
Mhm.
world's gonna be there.
Yes, yes, yes.
Gotta
But
find it sometime.
like I just and I don't, ever want to bash anything or any like
Yeah,
ideology or anything, but it's just like don't, like people will get into arguments over the tiniest details. And
yeah,
it's just like you said, the world is still there. Like people were killing each other, like people were big fights and wars over religion and stuff. And it's just like you feel like you're going to hell for using chewing tobacco. So it's like people are getting slaughtered in the world for really big things, really big deals. And it's just like, so I completely understand and I'm very open-minded and I'm very respectful.
yeah,
It's just like, to me, it's like, I think that, I don't think that quote unquote God is so like fixated on those, oh, don't do this or else you're done. Like I just can't get with that because I see bad things happening to good people all the time. Like people,
yeah.
so
It's
um
like it's like a paradox, man. I mean, I think it's like
yeah.
in everyone's got an individual journey, but we also need to remember that that journey is connected to everything and everybody. And when you kind of
Yes.
start to mitigate that, it becomes easier to be open-minded to things and
Mhm.
know unfortunately a lot of we're not going to change anybody's mind. We rarely even change our own, so why do we
Yeah,
think that's going to happen? And to me, I just think, well, it's not their time for their mind to be changed. It's not my purpose, you know. And at
absolutely.
the end of the day, for the most part, it doesn't affect me. I mean, there's certain things where it's like, oh
Mhm.
man, like you gotta, these ideologies are hurting people. But then
Yeah.
you got to go with the Stoics. What can I do about it? Well, not a lot. So why am I gonna let it
Yeah.
bother me?
Yeah, you get up there and you start getting into arguments and you just look like you it's just like this isn't beneficial, this isn't getting what you want out of it. But I could
Yeah.
understand the notion of wanting people to just think a little bit, more. And
Yeah.
but it's like walking a distance and then you want people to walk along with you, but
Yeah.
some people just aren't moving. So
Yeah, that's where it coming right back to an awareness. You try to prod, let's see if they're open to this and aware of
mhm.
yourself and your environment. And okay, they're not, so let's move on.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you'll find a little snippet that you can tell them that gets them thinking. It opens the
Mhm.
door, and
Yeah.
then maybe we can revisit this later or they'll revisit with someone else. But yeah, it's wild out there.
Yeah, it's wild because certain things that like were extremely forbidden in the past
Hmm.
due to nothing's changed. Not the stuff that same stuff is written, but
Right.
it's now is like people has progressed and people are like, okay, well, we're not in the old days, So
Yeah.
think in the future, are
Hmm.
people gonna say, well, we're not in the old days, well, whatever we're like super rigid on right now?
Yeah.
It's like, so nothing's changed that's written. It's just people, they evolve. So it's just a slow progression.
Yeah. Times change and change happens kind of a lot of times slowly and then all at once is what I've seen,
Mhm.
kind of how that
Yeah.
is. Well, now you got me curious on your favorite book. I got to ask you. Just throw that question right back.
My favorite book. Oh my goodness. I need to read more, honestly, but okay. Um my favorite book is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight from Nike.
Oh, huh. What's that
Yeah.
one about? I haven't read that. You got
It's
me
it's
interested.
just it's his memoir pretty much just about
Hmm.
what he like went through and all of the like hurdles that he had to do to like get to put Nike on the map, and so many lawsuits and competition he had. Like this man would fly to Japan and like have meetings with these big time uh bosses of shoe companies, and pretty much like fly back with shoes and have the shoes flown to him, and he would sell them out of his car and stuff.
Oh,
But his
wow.
my favorite quote I've ever read in a book was in this, and I think it was right before Nike went uh like publicly traded or something
Right.
like that, where they went to have a meeting with the people that dictate the market, I think, or something. And he says to his team, he says the well, I think he took this from somebody, but the way he put it
Hmm.
was the the cowards never started. The weak died along the way, so that leaves us, just
Yeah.
us. And he was telling that to his team, and that's like that's
Wow.
super powerful. The cowards never started, and the
Yeah.
weak died along the way. So who's left standing? It's just us, and
Yeah. That's great.
that's some,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love it. Yeah, I'm trying to. I wanted to say a more like since we're talking about high performance, when you asked, I should just say a book that's high performer that I read recently. But no, that's me. That's my authentic self. I love me some Anne Rice, man. I love it.
yeah,
Although I mean, arguably, in my opinion, she was a very high performing author. So
hmm,
there's that peak performer in her field for a long time too. So
yeah.
great. Yeah, I mean, this has been great. I'm having fun with these, that's for sure. Hopefully you had some fun coming on.
I mean, this is a fun time. I enjoyed this a lot. I was
Yeah.
nervous too.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I helped out with that, with making it less. You gotta
Oh yeah,
gotta
yeah,
reframe that nervousness as excitement to come and hang
yeah.
out with RyBred.
Yeah, yeah. On the Hawk's Nest. Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything you want to throw out there, promote anything of yours, now's your chance.
Keep Ascending is the name of my consulting business. Hasn't started yet, but it's
Mhm.
coming. And yeah, that's it. I'm just a Florida guy, but from Brooklyn. That's about it.
Brooklyn man becomes Florida man. That's a could be a title one day of something. All
Brooklyn
right.
guy, yeah.
Nice. All right.